First, to represent the faculty members from the School of Public Health in the Department of Health, Behavior, and Society, one of our senior service learning faculty fellows who teaches a service learning course, which is Program Planning for Health Behavior Change, Dr. Vanya Jones. She's my person. Vanya? You're my person. You're my person.
I feel like it should just be over after that. This is so unfair to have someone come up. So my experience with SOURCE started about 8 years ago when I had students in a very large class who wanted to go out and do good work in Baltimore, and it went horribly wrong, and there were students in my office crying. And so from that moment, I thought, I'm really not sure what to do. And I went to Mindy's office and said, I really need some help. I need you to help me figure out if students want to go out into the community, how do we help them? What's the process by which to do this? Because I'm standing in front of a lecture teaching theory and boxes and arrows, and that's all wonderful, but they want to try and figure out how they use that in the real world. And so for a few years, Mindy met with me before my class, and we went through how we could do this. And then one year she came to me and said, Vanya, we're going to start this program for faculty called the Service Learning Fellows, and I think you'd be good at it just because, in part, you'd stop showing up at my office periodically and say, help me, because my students want to go out and do work. And so, I thought that was just a really great sort of story to show how SOURCE has sort of grown and thought of as a resource for faculty. So in thinking about faculty and the role of faculty, we kind of have three parts to our job. The first is teaching, and what SOURCE has really done for me in teaching my class, and Mindy, my person, who I showed up on her doorstep asking for help, has done for me is to take the boxes and arrows and the theory that I teach in class and to help students figure out how to use that, but more importantly, help them dig deep and think about what they're bringing to the table when they do that type of work, which is a completely different process. How do you decide if your opinions and your way of looking at the world is what's hindering the good work that you're trying to do? How do you assess that? How do you give that feedback back to students? That's what the Service Learning Scholars has done for me, and that's what SOURCE has helped me look at as a faculty member who has to teach and has to teach effectively of workforce that's brilliant and wonderful but wants to go out and do great work. The second thing that we have to do as faculty is research. I am a researcher, and that's how I look at my world, and I think about the questions that I can answer every day. And when I meet with Mindy and I think about the organizations that I want to work with and go out to, the one thing that she presented back to me and said, what do you leave for them? So you're going to get some publications, and that's wonderful, and you're going to represent the big, bad Johns Hopkins out in the world, and that's fantastic. But back here in Baltimore, we have an interesting story here at Hopkins, and we want to make sure we leave something, and we leave our communities better off, because believe it or not, we are neighbors. And we're either going to be really good neighbors, or we're going to be not so good neighbors. So how do we be really good neighbors and help the relationship be symbiotic? And then the third thing that we have to do is service. And what Mindy has really helped me do, and this is one of the things that started this year, or 2 years ago, I guess, is the service, the community fellows. And so I've gotten to work with some community members that I would have never have met through organizations that are doing some amazing work, but I've gotten to hear their perspective. So when we send students out, what is it that they're looking for? How do they want to be a part of our institution? Talk about that neighborhood. We never talk about how does the community come into Hopkins and work with us directly. So they've been able to help me with my service and provide me with an opportunity. The very first organization that I chose to serve on a board of is an organization that's a SOURCE organization because they sort of understood, and they came to me and said, we think the work that you're doing is wonderful, and we think this relationship that SOURCE has brought us together is one that can last a very long time. So Mindy, my person, you have helped my career, you have helped my students, and I really hope that those of you who are interested in being a part of this community, of network of people, really come forward. And there's a lot of ambassadors in the room that I'm sure will happily bring you on. But SOURCE has been great, and I think what they're doing is really making Hopkins be aware of our relationship to the community and become a much better neighbor, which I think we all aspire to.